Steve Malzberg.
And welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, I first talked to our next guest when he wrote his first book, Secret Weapon. And it was all about how and who and his experiences in finding out for the government what might have triggered the financial collapse. Could it have been overseas powers? Could it have been a conspiracy? And when he found out what he found out, all of a sudden the government wanted no part of him anymore. The government didn't want to know from him anymore, as as they might say. Well, he's written a follow-up book, and we're talking about Kevin Freeman, founder and CEO of Freeman Global Investment Counsel, and his new book, Game Plan: How to Protect Yourself from the Coming Cyber Economic Attack. And there, you folks watching on Newsmax TV just saw the cover. And Kevin, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Steve. In fact, you were, before anyone else, before the first book was written, you interviewed me about the Pentagon report.
Yes.
I'm not sure how you found out about it, but you dug that out for your followers. Yeah,
and that was very, very... I mean, if you can, if it's possible, just to lay some groundwork here, just summarize some of the things you found in that Pentagon report. Again, which once you found it, the Pentagon didn't want anything to do with it.
Well, that's right. What I found in 2008 when our stock market went down, that a part of the crash was caused by Sharia-compliant financial funds out of the Middle East. There were elements from Russia and China short-selling our stock market, undermining with credit default swaps and all these instruments that Warren Buffett calls financial weapons of mass destruction. They were using those weapons. It's certain. I found it, and then 3 subsequent Pentagon reports backed up what I found, although all were classified. And my report was only not remained unclassified because a former director of the CIA, Jim Woolsey, stepped in and said, "No, you're not going to do this."
Pretty frightening. Pretty frightening.
It is, but they've gone further. Not only did they document it, but 3 weeks ago on 60 Minutes, General Keith Alexander admitted that foreign powers have the motive, means, and opportunity to take down our economy, and that's the best way they can attack our nation. So the government didn't want any part of getting it out as a message, but they became fully aware. I briefed everyone: CIA, DIA, House Armed Services Committee, you name it, FBI. I briefed them all, and now they're fully aware of it.
All right. Now, in your new book, Game Plan, when you talk about how to protect yourself from the coming cyber economic attack, are you talking about something similar, or what does that mean exactly?
Well, the reason it's titled Game Plan is because the means that we could be attacked are multiple. And so, like, if you're a good defense in a football game with the Bulls going on national championship and playoffs and so forth, you can't plan one defense and assume they're going to pass every down. So Game Plan talks about what happens if they go after the U.S. dollar. What happens if they go after the stock market again as they did before? What happens if they hack our industries or launch an EMP or hack our electric grid and it goes down? All these multiple means of attacking us in this economic war, and individuals need to learn a game plan. How do you protect against each one of those types of attacks? When you see these signs, what should you be doing?
Well, I would think that if our power grid goes down, and this is something I am very, very concerned about and have been for quite some time, and there are a number of congressmen that are concerned about it, but nothing gets done, and God forbid the media should ever even mention it, and anybody who does is considered a lunatic. But if the power grid were to go down for 6 months, 3 months, a year, I would assume that then gold would be the commodity of choice, correct?
Well, gold would be a great investment of choice, but food becomes even more important, and water becomes.
Oh no, I understand that, but I meant if there were any way to buy anything or have any leverage if you needed things, I would assume that selling dollar bills wouldn't work too much. Maybe gold would be able to gold,
barter. Silver,
yeah,
no doubt. Practical things that people can use, or things that people long recognize as having value. Prescription drugs. But if the power went down, and it's not far-fetched. A mass ejection from the sun, a corona ejection, could take out the power grid as it did in a Carrington event in 1859. So, I mean, it could happen naturally, or it could happen because North Korea launches a missile out of the Gulf of Mexico.
Absolutely, or Iran, or Russia or any of our not so friendly countries. A small nuclear device from the middle of the water somewhere, and that's an EMP attack.
Right, or a cyber attack could do it. They could take down the electric grid. You see occasionally while these blackouts, what happened? Well, a tree fell on a line somewhere and it caused a cascading effect. What happens if somebody takes out 2 or 3 major power stations using a cyber attack like we did apparently to the Iranians in regard to their nuclear development?
Yeah. I was, when we had the blackout with the hurricane a year ago, it wasn't a hurricane, but Sandy in Jersey, 8 days we were out. But across the street, the pizza place was open, and down the block, another restaurant was open. So it was cold in the house and it was terrible and dark, but it wasn't you didn't feel the true nature of a real blackout and what it would be like. And the other night, I was taking a shower, New Year's Eve night, or New Year's Eve, 6 p.m., and I'm in the shower and everything went out. But that was only 20 minutes. But my first thought was, oh my God, they picked New Year's Eve to do it to us, and I had real fears that that was going to last for a long time. But let's talk about it, and we're talking right now to Kevin Freeman. His new book is Game Plan: How to Protect Yourself from the Coming Cyber Economic Attack, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. So with all these as possibilities, all these nightmare scenarios, what's a person who's out there, who's planning for their future, retirement, kids going to college? I fit into both those categories. What's a person to do?
Well, you've got to start with the basics, and the first thing is you got to have a normal supply, a couple of weeks supply of food, water, so forth. The second thing you need to do is with your investments, you need to diversify and not just put it into the United States dollar, put it in your mattress, put it in the bank account, because there could be confiscations, as there have been in Cyprus and other places. In fact, the IMF last week issued a report saying there will be confiscations of wealth from bank accounts. So
meaning what? Meaning cyber attacks?
No, meaning the government comes in and says that we can't pay our $17 trillion.
So we're taking your money.
And so we're going to take a 20% tax on all wealth. And they just take it, just like they did in Cyprus. So you've got to diversify. If the dollar crashes, people say, "Well, I don't want to own anything at all if the dollar crashes." Well, if you don't own anything at all, you have dollars. So you actually want stocks. They did well in Zimbabwe in 2008 when their currency, the Zimbabwe dollar, collapsed. The best performing stock market in the world was Zimbabwe. You want to have gold under the right circumstances, and you probably want to have gold under all circumstances. The question is how much. But you don't want to put everything in gold. If you did that 2 years ago, you're down 30, 40%.
Right. Yeah. Now, when you say gold, physical gold that you could hold or a gold fund, there's a difference.
Excellent question. We covered that in the book Game Plan. You can buy physical gold. You can buy gold coins. You can buy numismatics that are special gold coins. You can buy gold ETFs. You can buy gold mining shares, and they all work differently under different circumstances.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's all in the book. I mean, how stocks should be deployed in your investment portfolio, how to diversify, as you mentioned, how to decrease your bond holding viability, how to judge a guarantor in a guaranteed investment. All these kinds of things that the average person really needs to know. And we'll have you back, Kevin, because there's so much more to talk about. But great luck with the book Game Plan. Kevin Freeman, founder and CEO of Freeman Global Investment Counsel. Great to talk to you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretweapon.org is my website.
Secretweapon.org, and of course that was the name of the first book, Secret Weapon. Great. All right, we'll have him back, Kevin, back, because he's right on target. And what he found out in that Pentagon report is devastating, which is why they didn't want to talk about it, which is why the Pentagon didn't want it once he did it. They employed him to find out. He found out. And when he found out, they said, take a hike. That's not what we want to hear. But that's what happened. All right, we're coming back, ladies and gentlemen, with Christopher Parker, our friend, professor of University of Washington, and we're going to talk some, Melissa Harris Perry and all that kind of good stuff on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.